You're not losing to your enemies. You're losing to fools. And the worst part, the part that Machiavelli identified 500 years ago that nobody has been honest enough to tell you since, is that your intelligence is not protecting you from them. It's making you more vulnerable. Every extra point of intelligence you have is another tool the fool can use against you without even knowing they're doing it. I know that sounds backwards. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to show you something that is going to permanently change how you move through rooms, through relationships, through every interaction where someone is wasting your time, draining your energy, and costing you more than you realize. And it starts with the most dangerous mistake intelligent people make, the one that's happening to you right now, possibly in multiple areas of your life, and you don't even see it yet. Here's what nobody tells you about being intelligent. It comes with a fatal flaw built directly into the strength, the same mind that can analyze a complex problem, construct a precise argument, and see 3 moves ahead in any situation. That same mind has an almost uncontrollable need to do something that will destroy you in the wrong company. It needs to be right, out loud, in the room, in front of witnesses. Machiavelli watched this happen to the most capable men in Florence, brilliant strategists, sharp thinkers, men who understood politics, economics, human nature with a precision most people never develop. And he watched them, again and again, get pulled into exchanges with people who had no business sharing a conversation with them. Watched them argue, watched them explain, watched them spend their sharpest thinking trying to reason with people who were constitutionally immune to reason. And he watched what it cost them, not the argument. They usually won the argument. What it cost them was something more valuable than winning any single argument. What it cost them was their position, their altitude, the specific quality of presence that comes from being the person who operates on a level that certain exchanges simply cannot reach. But before I show you what Machiavelli said to do instead, I need to show you something first, something about fools that will completely change how you recognize them. Because here's where intelligent people make their first mistake. They're looking for the wrong thing. When you hear the word fool, your mind produces a specific image. Someone obviously incompetent, visibly confused, easy to identify and therefore easy to dismiss. The kind of person whose foolishness announces itself the moment they open their mouth. That person exists, and they're not the problem. The dangerous fool, the one Machiavelli documented with clinical precision, the one who has probably already cost you something significant without you fully understanding how that fool doesn't look like a fool. Not at first. Not in the way you're expecting. They're articulate, sometimes educated, often socially skilled. They can hold a conversation, present a position, appear entirely reasonable for long enough that by the time you realize what you're dealing with, you're already 3 exchanges deep into something you cannot win. What makes them a fool in Machiavelli's framework has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with something far more specific. They cannot update. Evidence doesn't move them. Logic doesn't land. The argument that would cause any honest, thinking person to reconsider their position produces in the fool not reconsideration but escalation. Their certainty doesn't decrease when challenged. It increases. The wall doesn't come down when you push it. It gets thicker. And the intelligent person encountering this for the first time does the most natural and most catastrophic thing possible. They push harder. More evidence. Clearer logic. Better constructed argument. Surely this will be the thing that finally gets through. Surely at some point the weight of reason will become undeniable. It won't. And Machiavelli knew exactly why. Because the fool was never in the conversation for the reason you think they were. They weren't there to exchange ideas or reach truth or resolve a disagreement. They were there for something else entirely. Something your intelligence made you completely blind to in the urgency of trying to win the argument you thought you were having. What were they there for? I'll tell you in a moment. But first, the second thing intelligent people get completely wrong about fools. Most people think the fool's power comes from what they do. It doesn't. The fool's power comes entirely from what they make you do. Think about the last time someone genuinely foolish got under your skin. Not someone who challenged you intelligently. That's a different experience entirely. Someone who was simply stubbornly, immovably wrong. who repeated the same broken logic despite everything you said, who seemed immune to every reasonable response you offered. Now think about what happened to you in that exchange. You explained yourself, probably more than once. You provided evidence. You constructed careful, precise, thorough arguments. You felt frustration rising. You invested more energy as the conversation resisted resolution. You may have thought about it afterward, maybe rehearsed the argument you should have made, maybe told someone else about it. Now here is the question Machiavelli would have asked. While you were doing all of that, where were they? They were fine. They were exactly where they started, completely unaffected, maybe slightly energized by having produced such a strong reaction in you. And your investment, all of it, had produced exactly nothing except the depletion of the resource you needed most for everything that actually mattered in your life. That's not losing an argument. That's something much more serious. That's handing a fool the keys to your mental and emotional bandwidth and watching them drive away with it while you stand there holding the logic that was supposed to stop them. Machiavelli called this the trap of worthy response to unworthy provocation, and he considered it one of the most reliable ways to watch a capable person slowly diminish themselves in front of everyone paying attention. But here's the part that changes everything. The part most people never reach because they're so focused on how to win these exchanges that they never stop to ask a different question. What if winning the exchange was never the point? There's a story Machiavelli never wrote directly, but that lives between the lines of everything he did right. The story of two men in a marketplace. The first man is a merchant of genuine intelligence and reputation. The second is a fool who has decided, for reasons known only to him, that the merchant's goods are inferior, and he is going to announce this to everyone present. The merchant has a choice. He can engage, defend his goods, demonstrate their quality, dismantle the fool's argument in front of the assembled crowd, win the debate. Or he can do something that looks, to most observers, like weakness, like avoidance, like the behavior of a man who has something to hide or who lacks the confidence to defend himself. He can turn back to his work, acknowledge nothing, respond to nothing. Let the fool's voice fill the marketplace while he quietly serves the customers who are already there for a reason. Now here is what Machiavelli understood about what happens next. The crowd, the real crowd, the one whose opinion actually matters, does not evaluate the fool's claims on their merits. They evaluate the merchant on his response to them. And a merchant who abandons his work to argue with a fool in the street has communicated something about himself that no subsequent victory in the argument can undo. He has communicated that the fool had the power to pull him from his position, that the claim, however baseless, was worth the full investment of his attention, that his confidence in his own goods required external confirmation to remain intact. The merchant who keeps working communicates the opposite, and communicates it without saying a single word. That is Machiavellian silence, not the silence of someone who has nothing to say, the silence of someone whose position is so secure that the challenge doesn't register as a threat requiring response. But here's what I need you to understand, because this is where most people take the principle and apply it incorrectly. This kind of silence is not passive. It is not simply not responding. It is the active, deliberate, fully conscious deployment of non-engagement as the most powerful statement available. And it requires something specific that most intelligent people haven't built yet. The reason intelligent people can't stay silent when fools provoke them is not lack of discipline. It's something much more specific and much more fixable. It's an unresolved need for the room to know that you're right. Machiavelli identified this as the primary vulnerability of intelligent people in almost every environment he studied. Not stupidity, not weakness, not poor strategy. The deep, often unconscious need to have their intelligence recognized in the moment it's being challenged. To not let an incorrect claim stand without correction. To not exit a room leaving people with a false impression that was within their power to correct. This need is completely understandable. In most environments, in most interactions, it's even reasonable. Being right matters. Accurate information matters. Correcting errors in thinking matters. But Machiavelli's observation was precise and uncomfortable. This need, however legitimate in the abstract, becomes a weapon in the hands of anyone willing to exploit it, and fools exploit it constantly, usually without even realizing they're doing it. Simply by being wrong confidently in your presence, the fool activates the mechanism. And the mechanism, if you haven't dealt with it, runs the program. Engage, explain, correct, invest, every time. The work of becoming someone who can disengage from fools without internal cost is not primarily the work of developing better disengagement strategies. It's the work of addressing this need at its root. It's the work of building a relationship with your own intelligence that is secure enough that it doesn't require the fool's acknowledgement to remain intact. That doesn't need the room's confirmation to know what it knows. That can leave a false claim uncorrected in a conversation that doesn't matter and feel nothing about it, except the quiet satisfaction of having protected something worth protecting. That security doesn't come from telling yourself to care less. It comes from the accumulation of genuine evidence in your own life that your intelligence produces results that speak for themselves, results that exist independent of any individual conversation, results that are visible to the people whose assessment of you actually matters. When you have that, when you have built something real that stands as evidence of what you are, the fool's challenge becomes genuinely irrelevant, not managed into irrelevance, actually irrelevant. Because you have a reference point for your own capability that no argument in any marketplace can touch. That's the foundation. Now here's the framework built on top of it. Machiavelli's approach to fools was not a single strategy. It was a layered system, and each layer addresses a different aspect of the problem. The first layer is recognition. Before any response decision is made, the intelligent person asks one question that most people skip entirely in the momentum of the interaction. Is this person actually reachable through the means I am considering using? Not can they theoretically understand what I'm about to say, but given everything observable about this person in this specific interaction, is there any realistic probability that my engagement will change anything about what they believe or what they're going to do? This question requires honest answering, not hopeful answering, not charitable answering, honest answering. Because the charitable answer, maybe this time they'll hear it, maybe this time it will land, is the answer that keeps intelligent people in losing engagements indefinitely. Machiavelli had no patience for self-deception on this point. He would have said that misreading a person's reachability is not kindness, it is inaccuracy, and inaccuracy in the assessment of the people you're dealing with is one of the most expensive errors available. If the honest answer is no, and you will know the honest answer if you allow yourself to know it, then the decision is already made. Not with drama, not with announced withdrawal that creates a new confrontation. Clean, quiet, complete disengagement. The interaction is noted, assessed, and released. The energy is conserved. The next thing gets your full attention. The second layer is reputation management. And this is the dimension most intelligent people overlook completely because they're focused on the content of the interaction rather than the social information it broadcasts. Machiavelli was obsessed with this. He understood that every public interaction generates data about you that every observer is processing. The interactions you choose to engage in, the provocations you choose to respond to, the battles you choose to fight, all of it builds a picture. And pictures, once established, are extraordinarily difficult to revise. The picture you want is the one of a person who operates at a level that certain exchanges simply cannot reach. Not arrogance, not coldness. The specific, observable quality of someone whose focus is so genuinely fixed on something worthwhile that foolish provocation doesn't produce the response the fool was expecting. That picture, built interaction by interaction across time, produces something that Machiavelli considered one of the most durable forms of social power available. It produces a reputation for unshakability, and people treat the unshakable person differently, not because they've been strategically positioned, but because the consistent evidence of their response to pressure has accumulated into a fact about who they are that precedes them into every room. The third layer is extraction. And this is where Machiavelli's framework moves from purely defensive to genuinely strategic. Fools, precisely because they lack the discipline to manage what they reveal, are extraordinarily informative. The confident fool shows you the uninformed consensus in your environment. The grievance collector shows you where the unresolved pain in a system lies. The chaos agent, through the specific shape of the disruption they create, shows you exactly which relationships and structures around you are fragile enough to be disrupted by someone operating at their level. While everyone else in the room is being drained by the fool's presence, the truly intelligent person is watching, collecting, noting not just what the fool is doing, but how the system responds to it, who engages, who withdraws, who defends the fool and why, who uses the chaos to advance something else, who loses composure and what that loss reveals about where their security actually lives. All of that watching produces intelligence in the strategic sense of the word. Information about your environment that your environment would never share voluntarily. The fool is delivering it for free, but only to the person positioned to receive it. And you can only be positioned to receive it if you are not in the middle of arguing with them. Now here's the principle that brings everything together. The one Machiavelli returned to most consistently, and the one that is both the simplest and the most demanding. The ultimate answer to the fool is not a strategy applied to them. It is a life built beyond their reach. Every minute you spend managing fools is a minute not spent building the thing that makes fool management progressively irrelevant. Every hour of intelligence deployed in losing engagements is an hour not available for the investments that compound over time into something the fool could never touch, regardless of how long they tried. Machiavelli's most powerful people were not the ones with the best fool management strategies. They were the ones whose construction of something genuinely significant had made them so clearly valuable, so visibly purposeful, so obviously occupied with things that mattered, that the fool's attempts to engage them produced a response the fool was not equipped to handle. Not argument, not silence deployed strategically, just the authentic unavailability of someone who is genuinely elsewhere. The merchant in the marketplace who keeps working isn't performing disinterest. He is disinterested. Because his customers are there, his work is in front of him, and the thing the fool is offering, the drama, the argument, the exchange, genuinely cannot compete with where his attention already is. That is the complete picture. See fools accurately before you're deep in the exchange. Refuse the engagement without drama. Protect what your presence in any battle communicates about what that battle is worth. Extract what fools reveal without paying the price of full engagement. Direct your intelligence with the ruthlessness of someone who knows it's finite, and build something real enough that the question of dealing with fools becomes secondary to the question of what you are creating. Because in the end, Machiavelli's message to intelligent people was not about fools at all. It was about you. It was about the tragedy of a capable mind that spends its sharpest hours on the dullest targets, that mistakes engagement for strength, that confuses winning arguments in the wrong rooms with actually advancing in the right direction. Your intelligence is not a weapon for winning every exchange. It is a resource for building something that lasts. Protect it like Machiavelli would have, completely, ruthlessly, and without apology. Drop this in the comments right now. I protect my intelligence for what deserves it. Share this with the most intelligent person you know who is currently wasting their thinking in the wrong rooms. They need to hear this more than they know. And if something in this landed differently than you expected, if something here challenged what you thought you knew about how intelligent people are supposed to operate, then Machiavelli did exactly what he always intended. He told you the truth, even when it wasn't what you came here to hear.